Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis and me once again. Welcome back to another Top 10. I'm going to be doing my top 10 favorite horror movies of 2022. I haven't done one of these in 2 years, or 3. Yeah, 3, because in 2020 and 2021 there wasn't that many horror movies that I wanted to see or got to see, because 2022 I saw a little bit more horror movies, but I just prefer seeing horror films in the theater than on streaming. So there's definitely a lot this year, or a bit of streaming horror movies that I did miss out on because I weren't aware of them. But I think it's been a much better year for horror films, in quite a while actually. This year got a lot of people talking about certain horror films, and yes, I'm doing a top 10 horror movies list in December. And to make things even more confusing, I'm wearing my Totoro Christmas sweater. Looks pretty nice. What you think? A little big, but I'm sure it'll shrink in the wash. Yeah, but anyways, let's get to it. Before I get into it, I just want to point out I'm not going to be adding films like Bones and All, The Menu, or Prey. While great films, well, they definitely have horror elements in them, I wouldn't say they're flat-out horror films. As for the films that I did see, I want to give a shout out to a few honorable mentions, which include Orphan First Kill, The Cursed, and Smile. Yes, I know Smile is pretty much the highest grossing horror film of the year, and while I really enjoyed that film, there were just 10 others that I enjoyed just a bit more. But I still recommend giving it a watch. Now anyways, let's get to it. Coming in at my number 10 spot is another requel. Well, it's not the only requel on here, but starting things off, I got the new Hellraiser film. I was really surprised by this one. The fact that this is sort of a semi-reboot a little bit with a brand new version of Pinhead, who I actually really liked. The new female version of Pinhead. I completely forgot what her name was, but I said her name in my review of the film. I really enjoyed the characters, and the storyline was kind of alright. I don't think it needed to be 2 hours long, but as a Hulu exclusive film, I feel like it really should have gone to theaters, because, I mean, we don't really get Hellraiser in the theaters because they're mostly straight to video, but this does not feel like straight to video quality right here. It's definitely far from being a new classic, but it's definitely the best Hellraiser film since the first one. It does have its flaws, but all in all, I really enjoyed it. And number 9 is probably the most controversial on this list, Men. Alex Garland is a terrific director, and though I definitely feel like he pissed off quite a bit of audience members when he gave this message in the film, but I kind of understood it. It's definitely going to piss off more of the male audience, but I can definitely see where he was going for this one. I also love how this is another A24 horror film that doesn't rely on jump scares and is just creating really weird ideas, and it definitely has its problems, but it's very ambitious, and one of the most ambitious that A24 has given us, and you're going to be seeing quite a bit of A24 horror films on this list. It's definitely got its problems, like, I don't really need to re-review these films, as I reviewed them already, all of them, as a matter of fact, but I recommend giving this one a watch. It's definitely far from Garland's best film. It's not as good as Ex Machina or Annihilation, but all in all, you might love it, you might hate it. I like it. I wouldn't say I necessarily loved it, but I definitely liked what he was going for here. And that ending, probably one of the grossest endings I've ever seen in a horror film. At my number 8 spot, I have another requel, Scream. The Scream franchise is parodied a lot in terms of the horror genre, from regular horror movies to sequels, and now requels, specifically films like Candyman, Halloween, and stuff like that. And this is going to be starting a brand new franchise as well, which kind of scares me, because the new Halloween franchise should have just stuck with that one Halloween film. And yeah, spoiler alert, you're not seeing Halloween Ends on this list, because I didn't really like that film. But I really enjoyed this one. I feel like it definitely pays tribute to Wes Craven and what he really did with this franchise. And while it's definitely not nearly as good as the first one, I do think it's the best Scream film in a really long time. And I enjoyed most of these movies. The only one I didn't really like that much was the third one. But this was definitely a step up from that. And at the time, I thought the fourth one was actually the second best in the series. But this one definitely takes that away, as it's still a very violent film. It definitely delivers on the violence and the humor as well. So yeah, I feel like it does a really good job at paying tribute to Wes Craven, and I really hope with this new franchise it does still have more to offer. Coming in at my number 7 spot is a sequel to a movie that I've never seen before, but I had to see it anyway because everybody was talking about it. Terrifier 2. I saw this at the worst possible time, but I did get to see it. So yeah, Art the Clown has now become a massive part to the horror genre ever since the first film in 2016. People thought that this was better than the first one, and I'm not in that big of a rush to watch the first film because I've heard it's not as good as this. But this movie definitely has to offer. If you don't really care for a lot of good scares, then it's definitely not going to disappoint you with the gore, though it's not the goriest film. I think the gore was a little bit overhyped. Like, I don't really see myself or seeing anyone that I would have known of just flat out fainting or passing out while watching this movie. While it's definitely disturbing, it's not like I've seen far more disturbing. But hey, it definitely does have a lot of gore to it. And if that's all that you expect, then you're definitely gonna enjoy this film. But surprisingly, this movie has some really good character depth and surprisingly a solid enough storyline. And Art the Clown he's amazing, okay? He is definitely one of the best horror movie clowns in a really long time. And Pennywise, and yeah, this movie is definitely going to do a good job of giving children more of their fear of clowns, and I don't know. But yeah, never let your kids watch this movie because it's 2 hours of just a bloodbath, pretty much. Again, I don't feel like this movie should be over 2 hours long, but hey, I can definitely say this wasn't a boring film, and if all you came for was a bunch of gore, then you're definitely going to get that here. And it definitely does have some good scares here and there. So, yeah, I'm talking about this way too long, but everybody's talking about this film, so yeah, just watch my review of it, along with my review. I reviewed 2 movies. Whatever, moving on. At my number 6 spot is one of the best horror prequels in recent memory, Pearl. Pearl is a prequel to another movie that came out this year, which you will be seeing soon. Pearl is a very, very creepy, character building story film, as it focuses a lot on the one character, Pearl, played by Mia Goth, who is incredible in this movie. She is the show stealer, and she should be. I mean, the movie is literally called Pearl, not anybody else. It's really nice to see how one actress in this franchise can play 2 characters and manage to give both terrific performances. And it definitely doesn't shy away from the gore either, though it's not as gory as that other film that I'm going to talk about, but it still manages to deliver in terms of it being an origin story to a really creepy character. Basically a younger version of that creepy character, as we saw the old version in the other film I'm going to talk about later. But yeah, Pearl is definitely a creep fest, and it definitely has one of the best performances in a horror film this year. At my number 5 spot, I have Bodies, 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 one of the funniest horror comedy films of the year, in my opinion. It's, again, definitely a divisive film. Like, some people didn't really like the whole message about, online Twitter stuff, but for me, I really dug what was going on here, even with the message. It's definitely one of the most bizarre horror films that A24 has put out. In fact, almost all of them are bizarre, but this one, it manages to be flat out fun in terms of the slasher whodunit genre and just combining those elements together with a very, very insane film with a bunch of twists and turns that you weren't really expecting. It manages to deliver on that type of stuff. And that ending, too, is probably one of the funniest endings to a horror film, and I thought it just had an absolutely perfect ending. It's definitely another one that a lot of people are going to be split on, but hey, pretty much any A24 horror film is going to split audiences. As for me, I'm with the audience that really, really enjoyed this one. At my number 4 spot, we have Yup, otherwise known as Nope, but I feel like it should be called Yup because that's exactly how I felt after leaving this movie. So good, in fact, that I saw it again. Nope is another fantastic entry in Jordan Peele's library of new, creative, inventive horror films that he has done ever since Get Out, which earned him an Academy Award, and I think it's safe to say that he is one of the best horror directors of the new millennium. He definitely has a lot of ideas behind this film, and he definitely takes inspiration from other films like Jaws and specific Western films and combining them together. It's basically a love letter and tribute to all these different genres and just combining them into one 2-hour-long movie, which never seems to slow down. It has so much to offer. Jordan Peele has something to tell, and His movies rely on social commentary, but this one, while it definitely has that as well, it definitely is more of an entertainment value than it is just a flat out thinking film. And while it is a film that definitely makes you think, it's a film that I just feel like he puts so much into that it's kind of hard to keep up. But all in all, Nope is definitely a yup for me, and I really hope Jordan Peele doesn't slow down anytime soon. It shows that he has a very inventive mind rather than just taking elements of his other films and just recycling them. It shows he has a very unique mind. And coming in at number 3, I have The Black Phone, an incredible full-length feature film based off of very short stories. Scott Derrickson is at his very finest here. He has given us one of the best horror villains in recent memory. Ethan Hawke. This is probably Ethan Hawke's best performance. He is terrific in this movie. And as for the characters, I really cared for these other characters and even the victims that were killed off by the grabber. That, of course, that's what his name is. And it was just such an interesting film. Well, some people have criticized it because, the grabber didn't really do much. All that he did was just feed him eggs, and he didn't really do anything to harm him that much. Well, I feel like it was just a lot more than just, giving him eggs. Like, if you actually focus on what he was doing the whole time, then I feel like it would have made the experience for you a lot better, because this truly was a remarkable experience that I saw it again as well, just like I did with Nope. This movie just had a lot to offer in terms of its storyline and its characters. It really had me caring, and it was one of the best horror experiences I saw this year. I saw a brief early access, like a day or two early access showing, and it was truly one of the best experiences in terms of horror that I've had this year, and it's one that I'm never going to forget. My number 2 spot is going to go to X, one of the most unique horror films from Ti West, and probably Ti West's best film. And Pearl is the prequel to this, so that's why. But X is one of the best slasher films I have seen in quite a while. And while it definitely is, I would consider it part of the slasher genre, it's actually a lot more than that. It pays tribute to old school horror films like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and of course it's a take on, X-rated films, pretty much, as they're making an X-rated film, and the old people, if you watch my review, you'll understand more. But this is by far Ti West's most creative film, and the fact that he's making a franchise to this, I hope it ends up going as well as he's making it out to be. I mean, Pearl was really good. I can't wait for his next film, Maxine. It's just a film that I found managed to be both very entertaining and both very psychological at the same time, while also having some really, really, elements that you definitely would not see in a PG-rated film. All in all, X was a really fun time, and I absolutely enjoyed watching it, and I rewatched it before seeing Pearl, and I could say I enjoyed it just as much the second time, if not just a little bit better. I definitely consider this one of A24's best horror films, and combining Ti West and A24 together just fit absolutely perfectly for me. Alright, and here it is. My number 1 favorite horror movie of 2022 is probably the most original horror film in years. My number 1 horror film of the year is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Need I say more? It's incredible. I'm going to be completely honest. I think the only good Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie is the first one. The very, very first one. Sorry, remake fans. It's just what I think. No. My actual favorite horror movie of 2022 is, of course, Barbarian. This is a film that I really took my time thinking about, is this my favorite horror film of the year? Because it definitely, I mean, X was really good as well, but yeah, I think this definitely deserves the top spot. This is one of the most unique horror films I have seen in recent memory. This is a very original film, and it's so unpredictable that you should not watch the trailer. If you watch the trailer before watching this, I kind of feel bad for you, because I think there's kind of a reason why I didn't see that many trailers or any trailer at all when going to see other films. And I saw a lot of horror films before seeing this film. Barbarian has a really unique storyline. It has so many different elements to the story that it's sort of easy to keep up with, but it all depends of what you want to expect. If you expect a lot of gore, you're going to be disappointed. Some people think this movie was overhyped. I can definitely see why, but I feel like they were expecting like something like a creature feature or something like that, like a insane maniac. While there is kind of a maniac in this, I feel like it definitely is a lot more than just gore. It has a really good cast, and they managed to play their characters very, very well here. From Bill Skarsgård, Justin Long, they're terrific in the film. And the movie never seems to drag on. Even when it does seem to drag on, it cuts away to something else. Just it really has you putting the pieces together. And what I love the most about it is that it builds suspense. It keeps the audience guessing. It keeps the audience on the edge of their seat. It's something that is super rare for modern horror to do. And it really makes me happy that there was just so many good horror films to come out this year, and this being one of them. As this is one horror film that just so many people have talked about, the hype was real. There's a reason so many critics love this film. This isn't just my favorite horror film of the year. It's one of my favorite films of the year in general. Barbarian is such a unique film. It's one of the most inventive horror films that I've seen this year. It's one that I'm not going to forget anytime soon. And I have a feeling if I rewatch it, it's just going to get better. And I already loved it the first time I watched it. Barbarian, there's nothing more to say. I absolutely loved it, and I highly recommend it for any horror fan out there. Just keep your expectations very low, because you might not know what you're going to get. I know exactly what I got. I got myself a really suspenseful and engaging time. And that's it. That's my top 10 favorite horror movies of the year. Wait some time, like the beginning of January, for my flat out best films of the year, because there have been so many good films coming out this year. I might have to make a top 20. In fact, I probably will make a top 20. And of course, my top 10 best video games as well. But yeah, and I still have other movies to review. Avatar comes out next week. So yeah, but anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.